Wednesday, August 30th, 2017. Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So it's not an early market update. I guess for the viewers in the US it is, but it's almost 1 p.m. London time. We've got economic data in about half an hour from the US at 8:30 Eastern Daylight Time. We've got GDP for the second quarter. It's the preliminary number. And how the GDP the numbers work is that the month after the end of the quarter, so in July, there's an advance estimate of GDP, and we had that last month. Now we're getting the preliminary, which is a revision of the advance, and then next month we'll get the final number. So these numbers can change. The advance number for the second quarter and on an annualized base was 2.6%. It's expected, the preliminary is expected to tick up to 2.7%. What else? The GDP price index, that's expected to stay at 1%. And I think that's important because I think the government underestimates price indices, how they're rising, and a 1% annual rate, in my opinion, is very low. If they calculated it in more realistic fashion, let's say if it was 2%, then the GDP would actually be 1.7 because they subtract the GDP price index from nominal GDP growth to get the the real GDP growth. So that's one thing I like to say. The other economic number that's really important coming out later this week on the 1st of September, first Friday of the month, is a U.S. non-farm payroll. And I guess you also have a Labor Day, I think, coming up next week. So it will be interesting to see what happens. September, we've also got the FOMC. And this is going to be a big meeting where they could decide to do something to rates. It's a meeting on the 19th and 20th of September. On the 20th, they'll have a summary of economic projections and a press conference by the chairwoman or chair, Janet Yellen. So in terms of the market, one thing I've been noticing the last 24 hours, and of course, I'm talking about the currencies and precious metals. We saw early yesterday, London time, gold surged up to 1326. It had already broken through 1300 the previous day on Monday in the afternoon, London time, even before the headlines about North Korea. And then when the markets reopened late on Monday, gold shot up to around 1317. Yesterday morning, it went further up to 1326. And I've been telling my viewers, and for those who haven't listened to my videos, that there's a strong correlation, at least in the last few years, between the strength of the dollar against the yen and the price of gold. What does that mean? Well, basically, whenever the dollar has been strong against the yen, gold has tended to weaken against the dollar, or the gold price has tended to weaken. So yesterday, with the headlines about Korea, the dollar actually dropped through some key supports in the dollar yen around 108.80, 108.90, and we actually went all the way down to around 108.30, which is still above the next support around 108.13. But later on in the afternoon and early evening London, towards the a few hours before the close of the New York Stock Exchange and the U.S. markets, the dollar started rallying back against the yen, and that's, that dampened the move of gold. So, and this morning, the dollar has continued to go up against the yen. Right now, as I speak at 1 o'clock, we're at 110.08. So we're up almost two big figures in the dollar versus the yen. The high has been 110.17. And I have to say, with the move that the dollar has made versus the yen, which is quite a good move, even though I think longer term the dollar is still headed lower against the yen, I would have expected gold to be below 1,300. But it's not. It's at 1309.50, basically unchanged from the late close yesterday. The COMEX Project A close at 6 p.m. New York. So actually, gold is held relatively well despite the strength of the dollar against the yen. The euro has also come off against the dollar. We're at 119.28. We had been above 120 yesterday. And the pound is kind of in the middle, not doing much. It's 129.24. So actually, on a relative basis, it looks like gold is doing fairly well. This morning and overnight, the low has been 1306.25 and the high 1313.96 or 1314. So we got the levels there now. 1306.05 is support, 1300 above 1326, 1336 as well, which was the high on election night last year, November 8th. And after that, the high from last year, which is around 1375. Am I saying that gold is going to continue to go higher in the short term? Maybe. But longer term, it definitely looks good for now. And, the fact that it's holding here above 1,300, in my opinion, despite the strong dollar versus the yen, is quite encouraging. Silver is still, lagging. We're at 1740, basically unchanged. The range has been 1732 to 1750. I like to see silver do a lot better because on election night last year, silver got up to around $19 when gold was at 1336, and we're still at 1750. So we need to see silver catch up to gold and hopefully also outperform it. So yeah, that's what I wanted to touch upon. The early market activity and this relationship between gold and the dollar versus the yen. In terms of other markets, the Dow is up 37 points, 21,894. S&P up 2 points. The NASDAQ 100 futures up 13. FTSE's up 34. So it looks like the fears about a war kind of have receded. North Korea, with that, with what happened, late on Monday, those fears have receded now. But there's still quite a bit out there, to digest. By the time you probably watch this video, the GDP numbers will have come out already, so that might have an impact. If it's weaker than expected, we could see gold go higher and the dollar weaken. So that's it for now. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. And I'd like to thank all the viewers, for supporting the channel. We've just gone over 8,000 subscribers. It's taken a while, but it's getting there. I'll talk to you later. Bye.